Hi, it's Jared from Strong Roots Farm. Today we have a very special video that has been 9 years in the making. And this video is not going to be about farming, essentially. It can help your farm or homestead, but it's going to be about raising quality children. For the most part, most of us want the exact same thing. We want disciplined, respectful, kind, honest kids that don't embarrass us when we go in public and quit asking us for money. But there's not really a clear roadmap. There's no owner's manual for this thing. They didn't give you a book when you left the hospital. And so we're all left to our own devices, whether that's we just make it up as we go, which happens, or you try to read or do research or whatever you can do, or just do it the way your parents did and look how that turned out. So today we're going to give you our secret. We've been doing this for a very long time, and it's a step-by-step plan that we use with all three of our boys. It doesn't matter if they're a boy or a girl, and it very much helps us create good children, but it also just helps us as parents. How do we deal with things? How do we answer when they have questions? You know, there's all these frustrating things. Kids can drive you crazy and at the same time warm your heart. It's weird. Today I'm giving you the step-by-step plan on how to do it. And the secret is we charge our kids rent. Intrigued? Stick around. We're going to go through this. All right, so let's get started. This is a program that I developed when I was in college. I took a lot of psychology and sociology style courses. I don't know why. I was just intrigued. These were all elective courses, but I focused a lot on educational psychology, child psychology, sociology, developmentally appropriate things as children grew and how their brain worked and how they saw things. And so this program came out of a project that I did during that time. Later, as my wife and I began to have the children talk, think about having kids, we sat down. And my wife, she currently teaches fourth grade, and so we sat down and got all the details of this, how we were going to do this with our family, and we nailed it down. And we had many seminars, we had been to conferences, all kinds of things with youth, because we had worked in the youth group with our church and taught kids for many years before we decided to have our own kids. And we went and got all this stuff penciled out, and it started on day one. So we knew, just kind of how we had grown up, that our kids were going to be expected to do chores. One important thing that was on my heart, and it was both of ours, but we wanted our kids to have a work ethic. We didn't want to just give them everything, but we also wanted them to have very nice stuff, better than we were raised. So how do you give your kids everything you want them to have or everything they want to have without spoiling them and just making them punks, and at the same time teaching them a work ethic? That's the heart. That is where this program stemmed from. So our program essentially starts on their 5th birthday, and from birth to 5 years old is kind of the training period, the prerequisites, if you will, for how this program is going to go. And so we started developing, attitudes and behaviors of work. So pick up after yourself, help us set the table, take your bowl to the sink, small stuff like that. Eventually, you end up with a list of things that the pre-5-year-old can handle. He can take down a basket of laundry, or he can put the mayonnaise back in the fridge, or whatever it would be. And you start to reward these chores, these actions, financially with money. We wanted our children from a very early age to understand, if you work, every man is worth his wage. And so when you work, you are paid for what you do. And so we paid our kids for everything that they do for the family. So what does that mean? If you're picking up something, if you're cleaning up a room that the family made a mess, you get paid for it. To pick your own underwear up off of your own floor, we're not paying you for that. you have to keep your own area clean. But any job that was being a part of the family, we paid them for. And as they've gotten older, it's stemmed into the farm and everything that they do, so it started with picking up clothes, but then it went to weeding and mowing and cows and everything else that we do here. And it doesn't have to be those kind of farm actions. It can be any kind of chores in any setting, in any location, in any socioeconomical demographic. It can be in any of those things. It's just, what chores are you going to give to your kids to do? And anything that you give them to do, you're going to pay them for. So like most people, we wanted our kids to help the family and do chores. We're expected to do chores. But we also wanted them to have their own money. And so we call it an allowance, even though I don't really like the term, because it's not free money. We don't just give you money for breathing. So money is earned, and you learn to earn money and save and tithe and give and all the other things that come with money and the responsibility of money. That has to be learned before they leave. So hence comes the rent. So we start at age 5, and a child pays their age per week in dollars. So for instance, a 5-year-old pays $5 per week in rent. A 10-year-old pays 10. My 13-year-old pays $13 per week in rent, collected every Friday. And on the flip side, they earn money for every job that they do. They take out the trash, it pays this much. They load the dishwasher, it pays this much. They mow the yard, it pays this much. At the end of the week, there's 2 results. Either they have made rent and made more than rent, which the excess money then goes to them and becomes their allowance, or they haven't made money and they are then grounded until they make rent and they pay a late fee, just like you would if you didn't pay your bills on time. The late fee has been enforced here in this house. Not very often, though. Typically, the kids learn to earn their money ahead of time. In fact, on Thursday, they're checking their can most of the time and seeing how much money they have in there. Do they have enough for rent? Do they have enough for, hey, this is coming up tomorrow at school. Do I have rent plus enough money to buy a ice cream, whatever it would be, the book fair, whatever goes on at school. They're always checking their bank account. With these jobs, they vary in size and shape and the amount of money. So we developed a job list based on not how long it took them. We don't pay them for their time. Their time is worthless to us. It's our time that is worth money. So we pay them a job based on how much time it saves us, which leads us to step 1. Step 1 is develop a job list. Before Colt turned 5, we just 50 cents, $1 here, do this, earn a little bit of money. The most he would earn is $3 or $4 a week, doing little things. And to a 3-4-year-old, $5 is a lot of money. And he would collect this. And when it got time to go to the candy store or wherever, they want money, he had his own money. And he had learned, that money comes from work. And the more I work, the more I earn, the more cool stuff I can buy for myself. But up until this point, Colt had not had to pay rent yet because he was less than 5. As his 5th birthday approached, and this is step 1 for you, we had to make a job list. So we said, okay, what are the things Colt, our 5-year-old at the time, can do? He can unload the dishwasher. He could take out the trash. He can collect bags of laundry, whatever it would be. You make the list to your house. And we said, okay, how long does it take us? How much does that job earn? And so I timed my wife, like, well, go do that job. Click. She didn't think that was very funny, but that's what we did. And I did those as well. We timed ourselves. To collect 3 baskets of laundry took us 7 minutes. To unload the dishwasher took us 9 minutes. and so on. So we set a wage for the family. And this is now 14 years ago, or I guess it would be 10 years ago when Colt was getting started. We decided that $12 an hour was a fair wage for a high school student at the time, and it probably should be raised now. And actually, that was minimum wage was $7.50 maybe at the time, and so it was a little bit above that, but it wasn't what we were making in our careers. But we set a wage of $12 an hour, and so it took 10 minutes to do a job. That job is now a $2 job. And so the job list began. So every time we had a job, we would think, okay, how much does it pay? And if a job was less than $1, which means it took us less than 5 minutes to do, we typically rounded it up to $1, or we added in things to it to make it take that 5 minutes. For instance, taking out the trash. We realized that could be done in 2 minutes. So taking out the trash, if you were going to take out the trash this week, it was taking it out, wiping out the bottom of the can, replacing the bag, putting the lid back on it, and then on Thursday, or trash day, you were also responsible for taking that to the end of the road if you claimed taking out the trash this week. Step one is get your list together of your jobs and set a value, a dollar amount for each job. This list is a never-ending list. It continues to grow with your children. The more jobs your children can do, the more jobs get added to the list. Step two is to set your discipline standard of each of these jobs. So basically the quality standard in which the job must be completed in order for you to get paid. We do not pay a dime for half-done jobs. So for instance, unloading the dishwasher, every dish needs to be out of the dishwasher and in its appropriate area, drawer, shelf, wherever that would be. If you don't know where this specific thing goes, you must ask, but leaving it on the counter because you don't know where it goes is unacceptable. That mistake will only happen once if they leave a dish and be like, well, I didn't know where it went, and then they went back to play, and mom had to put away one dish. If you didn't do that job right, you're not getting paid. She put the dish away, then brought you in and said, why did you leave the dishes out? They give the but, I didn't know. And you say, well, I'm not paying you. You should have asked. That discipline is hard the very first time. It won't happen very often. They will correct themselves very quickly. As a parent, this is a rougher part. If you're an undisciplined parent, it can be hard to discipline your kids if you know that they're trying. You know that they tried hard. You know that they tried to do a good job, but they didn't know. Or perhaps they weren't tall enough to get this special dish up high, but they have to learn to ask for help and find ways to adapt and overcome. So that instance happens. Well, I couldn't reach it. Well, then how can you figure out a way to do it on your own, or ask and I'll give you a solution? There's a chair, there's a ladder, whatever the situation would be. The discipline is critical to this program working. There has to be a standard for the job being completed to 100% every time, and you stick to that standard. Stick to your guns. Unfortunately, it only gets harder as they get older for these jobs. As the jobs get more difficult, the discipline becomes more difficult. So weed eating, how good do they need to weed? Do they need to weed like a professional landscaper? And so they need to weed as good as I weed. Doesn't matter how long it takes them. They have to go and inspect everywhere that they weeded if they're going to get paid for weeding. Because weeding is a $6 job. And if I'm paying you $6 to weed eat around here, it better look good. The other part about step 2 in the discipline of the job, and this is going to be difficult, is that you have to be able to deny doing the job. So we no longer are the, complaining dad or the rough dad or the nagging mom that begs you and asks you over and over to do a job. We offer a job as an opportunity, just like a business. And if you want the job and you want the money, you do the job. If you don't want it, you don't whine and complain about it. You say, no, I don't want to do it. And then we do it. And once the job is done, the money is gone. Now, I know this is going to be an issue because we've worked this program with many other families and we've talked through this with them and how they do it. And they're like, well, my kid would never do anything then. He would just deny every job. Then he's going to be grounded a lot. The grounding is another discipline thing that you have to stick with this. So grounding in our family is your life is pretty much gone. There's no technology. There's no friends going to friends' house. There's no sports. So if you don't get to go to practice if you're grounded, you don't get to do extracurricular activities if you're grounded. There's no dessert. So everybody else can be eating ice cream and cake after dinner. If you're grounded, you don't get ice cream and cake because you didn't do what you were responsible to do. Some people thought that was very harsh, but in life, if you don't go to work, you're not going to have the money to buy ice cream and go to nice restaurants and do those things that everybody else is getting to do. You're not going to have the money to go on trips and do activities. We're instilling that very young, and it's a difficult and hard thing as a parent to stick to your guns on that. The wonderful thing about our grounding is it's not a set time. So Friday evening comes, you don't make rent, you are now grounded. You are fined 10%. So if you owe $5, you now because rent was $5, you now owe $5.50. We added 10% to it. And so on. As they grow older, the fine goes up. So the kid has $3, he doesn't make rent, he owes $5.50. As soon as he earns $2.50, he can now pay his rent and pay his fine. He's ungrounded. So he gets to determine when he's ungrounded. We have had kids grounded for 30 minutes before. What does that look like? They come to the can, it's rent time, Friday evening, whatever time you set it. You can be Sunday morning, it can be Saturday night, whatever it would be. It doesn't really matter. We just do it Friday evening for our family. But it doesn't have rent. Is there any jobs? The best thing as a parent to do is to say, no, I don't have any work for you right now. Do not go out of your way to find them work. You are an employer. You give them chores. You gave them opportunities. They had to say no during this week if they're not making rent. They turn stuff down. Now they want you to jump through hoops to give them jobs so they can become ungrounded. That is not how it works. So only give them jobs if you need something done at that specific time. And like I said, we've had kids grounded for 30 minutes where they were $1 short and they had a $1 fine, and we had a $2 job that needed to be done, and they did their little job and paid, and I'm sorry, and they realized it, but their can was empty. So if any activities went on that weekend, they didn't have any money. So usually that means Saturday morning they're going to be working to earn some extra money for whatever we decide to do Saturday evening. The longest we've ever had any kid grounded was 3 weeks, and it was a very special circumstance. He threw a baseball through a window. We were going to replace the windows in the house that we were in, and so we didn't feel it was fair to charge him the full amount. So we charged him 50% of the cost of the window, which at that time was $90. The window cost $180. So I didn't charge him labor and fees to go pick up the window and any of that. I bought the window, I replaced the window, but he owed $90 for his half because he threw the baseball through it. It took him 3 weeks, and in 3 weeks, a 10-year-old earned $90, sweating it out to get that paid so he could go back to video games and go with his friends and do the things he wanted to do. But not only did he pay the $90, he also paid rent every week. So it was 3 weeks. He actually paid $120 in 3 weeks to get his 3 weeks rent and his $90 for the work window. On an average circumstance, grounding is a day or two. They figure out how to make the money. Step 1 was to get your chore list with how much it cost. Step 2 was to determine a quality standard for each of those jobs. Kind of work together with your spouse and get that job discipline set. Step 3 is to determine what they're allowed to do during grounding. And so our kids are allowed to read, they're allowed to do schoolwork, they're allowed to play chess. That is the only game that they're allowed to play if they are grounded, even if it's playing by themselves. No TV, no dessert, no video games, no friends, no sports, nothing. Reading, schoolwork, and chess. That's it. Now, later in life, as the kids got older, they've all started to pick up a musical instrument that we've tried to encourage them to do, and not a horn that's loud and crazy. My one son now plays the drums, which is kind of loud, but we have an electronic drum set, and we're trying to push the other two into bass or guitar, all focused on, or piano, all focused on what they can really play for church for a lifetime. So grounding, which hasn't happened in years now, I think today my wife and I would agree that practicing that instrument would also be allowed during that time. Now, on the flip side of that, if your son is huge into playing instruments and that's all he really wants to do, that's not good discipline to allow him to do that. So you kind of have to decide in step 3, what does grounding look like for your family? All right, on to step 4. Step 4 is going to happen right about the time that your kids are eligible. And I do want to touch on this point. If you're watching this video and your kids are already past age 5, you're not at the beginning of their life. We've had people implement this later in life. Started it at 10, started it at 12, whatever it would be. It doesn't have to be started like this, but for us, we started it very early. So I'm just explaining what we did. But step 4 is going to be the bank. And so I would say for us, we have one banker. My wife is the banker. If the kids do a job for me, I'll tell her I owe Colt or whoever, whichever son, this amount for this job. And she is the banker. She controls the money, kind of like we're playing Monopoly here. And each kid has his own bank, which for us was a birthday gift when they were 5. And so they each have their own piggy bank style of a can. They're each some sort of a can. And they put their money in there throughout the week. And so you need to set up a banker, some sort of a banking system. I would recommend it be physical dollars of some sort. We use Monopoly dollars, or mom dollars they call them, but they know at any time that's as good as any dollar. They can hand it to mom and she'll give them cash. You can use actual cash. I would think that would be good for math and other things. We just didn't really want $200 of $1 bills laying around our house at all the time or in the actual cans. And so we chose to stick with the Monopoly money. But you got to set up a banking system. You got to have a banker. Pick your currency, whatever that currency is going to be. That is going to be your step 4. Step 5 for us was determine what we were going to allow our kids to spend money on. And so this may not be a factor for you, but I will tell you it is imperative that you allow them to spend their money on pretty much anything that they want to spend it on. In fact, we encourage them to blow their money because then it makes them spend their money or invest it or whatever it would be. And then they're encouraged to work. If they rack up a big savings account and they can go 2 weeks without working, it leads to problems. And so we encourage them to find something that they want to save for. So, hey, I want a new bike. I want something big. We encourage big gifts because it gives them something that we write down or take a picture of and put in their can. it gives them something to work towards. But in our family, we do not buy fake stuff, mainly in video games. So their video games that they play, Robux or whatever, you can buy stuff within these dumb apps. And you know how it is. You have apps on your phone, and it's purchases within the app to get further into the game. We don't allow that. We don't allow them to spend money on that. And then we don't allow them to spend money on, of course, foul stuff that would be wrong or dirty. And we don't allow slime. So that we're weird like that. We don't want nasty slime in our house. So you can choose what it is here. Maybe they can spend it on anything. But the main point of the step 5 is that understand when it's time for them to get money, when they have money, when it's time for them to spend it. There's educational moments here, but you need to allow them to spend it on whatever they want. We educate all the time and tell them how dumb this is and how it's a waste of money, but if they want it, it's their money. And so we just use these educational moments. And as they have grown, it is awesome to see how they trust us more. When we say, look, we're going to do whatever you want to do, but Dad thinks it's a bad idea because of this, this, and this. And they tend to trust us, and they're like, okay, yeah, I see why that's dumb. And you logic with them and encourage them to out-logic you, not argue. We make sure it's not argumentative, they're respectful, but logic us of why they want to buy this, and it's their money. You have to allow it to go. When they buy that dumb gun, that toy plastic gun that you know is going to break in 2 weeks and their money is gone, you have to allow them to have that heartache and waste money when they're young, because it's $10, $20 at the most. And you would rather it happen then than when they're 30. So no gambling, they don't get to do that either. So, but you're going to pick those things. Whatever, we're not going to allow this in our family. You're not allowed to spend your money on this. When our kids spend money, it has changed over time because of Amazon, basically. When we first got started in this, Amazon was around, but it wasn't the biggest, craziest thing. We kind of had to go to the store a lot to spend money when Colt was 5. So 10 years ago now, or 9 years ago. And so as Amazon has grown and there's more stuff on there and the kids know how to use Amazon and show us what they want, they'll put it into the cart. They can't buy it, but they put it in and say, this is what I want to, buy with my money. We take it out of their can and hit submit and buy. It'll be here in this many days. It's been easier for them. We did not make special trips. Okay, so if they wanted to spend their money, they wanted to go to the grocery store with us and buy this or that, we didn't go a special trip. Now, if we were driving by, for instance, my son often has bought donuts in the morning on the way to church. He'll say, can we leave 5 minutes early? I have $5. I would like to buy donuts. We didn't know how he felt when that first came out, but it was a very good thing because he would buy 3 donuts and he would give them to his brothers too. And then the brothers, kind of all got in, hey, if I buy this, if I spend this much and you spend this much and I spend this much, we can get this and share it. We can get this bag of candy, or they've even ordered pizza before like that. So we kind of, we'll drive in somewhere, but we don't get up off the couch and make a special trip just because they want to spend money right now. We do plan a little bit like that, but I would encourage you to kind of figure that out. But if you hinder them from spending their money too much, they're not as motivated to work and save and go after those things. If it doesn't always arise within a reasonable amount of time, 2 days to them is like 2 weeks to us. Well, there you have it. That's the program. And, it may seem kind of simple. There has been lots of things that will arise, and it will be very different for you. And you're just going to have to sit down and talk logically. If it happened in real life to us, this situation, how would it be handled? And you go through it. I will go through a few things that we've learned and some issues that we've had along the way. So when you start instilling, we're going to pay you for everything, that concept, everything that you do can be earned money. From time to time, there had arisen some things. Like I would say, hey, can you go get me this bag of chips? Or can you get me a drink? Or can you, something simple. And they say, well, how much are you going to pay me? Like, nothing. You're going to do it for me because I'm your dad and you love me. How about that? And that can be kind of annoying at times. And I'll simply ask, do you think I should pay you for helping me out and be friendly to me? And like, yeah, you need to pay me for this if I do it. And allow them not to do it. I'll get up off the couch and go do it yourself and say, fine, I'll do it myself because I'm not paying you to bring me my bottle of water from over there that you're standing next to where I'm sitting. And then it will come around to a flip side. So we went through this with my oldest, and he didn't get the bottle of water because I wasn't going to pay him. And I said, fine. And it didn't take 2 or 3 hours. He got hungry, and he asked me to make him a sandwich. And I told him the sandwich, the peanut butter and jelly, was going to cost him $4. He's like, what do you mean $4? I was like, well, I'm giving you the food for free because I'm your father and that's my responsibility. But if I have to make it, you're going to hire me as a chef to make your peanut butter and jelly, and that costs $4. And he's like, well, I don't want to pay you for, well, then you need to learn how to make a peanut butter and jelly because I'm not doing it unless you pay me $4 because you're wanting me to do it for being friendly, but you wouldn't even get a water bottle for me. And then it clicks. And he realizes really quick, you better help dad out or mom out when the time arises, when there's little things like that aren't really a job. This program will bring about many teaching moments like that. How to be kind to others, how to give to people, how to tithe your money, how to invest your money. My kids have Roth IRAs, and my youngest is 8. And so there is a little bit of the farm in this. So because we have the farm can pay the kids so they can earn a wage from a company, essentially. And then with that, they deposit it into their own savings account. And from their own savings account can go into an investment account and they can save. They all have savings accounts. They all put their money into the bank. They have money and they will say, okay, I want to spend this amount of money, but I want to take this amount of money and save it. They all, by the time they're 10, buy their own Christmas gifts. So from October on, they're pretty much saving for Christmas so they can buy, cousins or whoever Christmas gifts. And it's nothing extravagant, but it's something and it's big to them. And the older they get, the gifts get better. And then this program continues to grow. So there are things that my almost 14-year-old does now that aren't on the list. So we cut up a tree that fell down, right? And you got to drag limbs, and I'm cutting, and he's picking up logs and doing that. Well, that's not on the list. We don't have a list for that. And so we get to have this conversation of, well, how much did you earn today? And so you were out there for X amount of hours, and how much time did you think you saved dad? So if I had to do all the stuff that you did, because I can drag 4 limbs at once and you can only drag 1, how much time would you actually save dad? And we get to have this conversation about money, and it instills a lot of, you have self-worth. And so you're worth this amount. And so, for instance, we built a windbreak for the cows this week, and they were out there for 6 hours. We're screwing boards into a fence and cutting metal and screwing up metal, and they're all, lifting things and carrying things, and they've learned to work for years now through this program. And so we bring them in, and we're sitting at dinner table. So how much did you earn today, Rue? And he said, well, I probably saved you this amount of time, and so that's this amount. And I think about $20, Dad. And I asked my older son, what does he earn? And we talk, and I ended up giving him more. I ended up saying, well, just so you're aware, buddy, you can fetch a tool the same speed that I can now. And he knows what the tool is. So it would have taken me 2 minutes to go in there and get those box of screws and the drill and everything. And you did it in 2 minutes. So you earned during that time essentially a normal wage. And so what he thought was like $20, because he's not as big and strong, some of those jobs pay pretty well. And he ended up earning about $30 in 6 hours, which isn't a lot of money, but for a 9-year-old, it's a pretty good wage. He worked hard. And we have kids that work like that through this program, but now they can, as they're getting older, they can know what they're worth, know how to work harder. I dock them for complaining, so we don't complain about our jobs. And we're creating this work ethic, but also this sense of gratitude towards, I know what I'm worth because I'm a good worker. And then it becomes this competition of, you're not going to outwork me. The other thing that we've seen happen as they've gotten older is they're willing to learn, because they understand if they learn another job, it allows them to do that job and earn money. So they learn to weld. My 10-year-old can weld. Not great, but if I can hold something, he has a helmet on, I can get it where I want it, and he can tack things in place. He can run a little bead. Now, we're not building, trailers or anything. So what we're doing and the different things that we do, he understands fractions because he understands wrench sizes, and he understands that they go in this order and where they go and how to put them back and organize them, and also how to get them. They can all change oil. My 9-year-old can change oil, and he understands what changing oil is worth. Now, better believe I inspect everything, and I'm there with them when they're doing it, but I rarely have to get underneath a truck anymore. They've also understood the value of doing jobs that nobody else wants to do. So this happened probably when they were 7 or 8. The cleaning of the toilet, to clean a bathroom, was added to the list. You can now clean the bathroom. Well, it didn't take my wife very long to clean a toilet, but she encouraged me that that was a $2 job, because she would rather pay $2 than clean the toilet if they would clean it. And so sometimes the jobs that aren't prestigious can pay the most if you're willing to work hard. My son has learned that cleaning the pig pen is not a job that other kids want, so he can earn more money for the same amount of labor, because it's a job that not other people really want to do. Well, there you have it. I hope this program is able for you to implement. I hope it works for you. Understand, you will have problems. There will be questions. How do we do this thing? It's a short-ish video, on YouTube. How do we get everything? I can't cover everything. There's going to be things that arise. And what you need to do is just think about how it works in the real world and discuss with your spouse what is the best way to solve this problem and use this thing. I said it would help with discipline, and it will because of work ethic. You can also use this as a fining system. So if a kid gets in trouble, you can add a fine. If you want to encourage good grades, you can give $1 for every A, those kind of things. You can change and adapt this to whatever you want it to do in a certain way if it fits you and it's teaching something to your kids. Well, there you go. Comment down below. Let me know if you have questions. I'll be glad to try to help you if I can. If you need me to expand and make another video on how we do this, I would be glad to do it. It has helped us tremendously with our family. We have created monsters, though, with logic and work ethic. They know if they want something, because we often say no, or do you have money? Like, you can have whatever you want. Can we have this, Dad? Can we have this, Mom? You can have whatever you want if you have the money. And so we've created these kids that now will work to get what they want. And they're also willing to logic us in a job that, hey, I could go do this if you'll pay me this. And it really has been beneficial, but it creates conversations sometimes that aren't pleasant to deal with. That you just don't want to sit in logic with your kid. You just want him to do what you want him to do sometimes. And you really have to step back and say, it's part of the process of what we're teaching through these moments. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Please check us out if you're a homesteader, a farmer, you're looking into those kind of videos. That's definitely what our channel is about primarily. But this is kind of some of the things that we do, and we'll keep instilling some of these things. I am trying to write all this stuff down. The hope is someday that I could, put this into a book form with more detail and charts and pictures and things. But hopefully this video gets you started in a way that you can, use this to better your family and your children. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.